Hello everyone, good morning. My name is Benji, thank you all for coming. We are Breakthrough Academy. If you can't tell already, I'm a part of the small but potent Canadian contingent down here. Thank you for hosting us. I get to talk to you guys today about an idea that we've kind of stumbled upon called the contractor growth phases. And I think to set context around that and sort of set this up the right way, I'll just tell you really briefly about what we do at Breakthrough Academy. So we are a business coaching, advising firm that works very, very specifically with construction and trades businesses. That's it. We're very specialized. We're not generalists. We are specialists. Over the last 9 years, we've worked with about 1,500 builders, roofers, landscapers, painters, etc., and help them systemize their businesses and grow. And one of the things that we have really started to observe is there are very, very clear phases that you work through as a builder, as an entrepreneur in this space. There's very clear patterns that get followed. And you can think of this kind of like one of those, those leadership frameworks, the five levels of leadership. You read about these things in business books all the time. I just don't think anyone has sort of dialed this in and researched it and spoken about it for the blue collar business owner in particular. And so that's what we're going to talk about. There's 4 of them. There's roadblocks at every single one. There are solutions for every single one. And I'm going to talk to you about what we're finding the most useful to help business owners scale their companies through those stages. Now, it's also worth mentioning, at the Build Show Live, there's a huge amount of content and speakers and experts here speaking to you about how to build better homes. And we are different in the sense that we're here to help you build a better business. So that's really what we bring to the table this week. We're going to be doing a bunch of breakouts. We do have a booth. What's our booth number? 1608, back there. If you are growing a business and want to systemize it the smart way, you want to work with professional coaches, I'd love it if you came by and spoke to us. But that's what we're going to talk about, mastering the contractor growth phases. When we do sessions like this, we love to give tons of free stuff away. So there's a little goodie bag at the end you can download using a QR code. I'm going to be talking about KPI dashboards and building an organizational chart and defining roles for your people. And there's a bunch of kind of take-home tools that we would love if you took back from this conference, downloaded, started to put some numbers into, started to work into your business. These are things we spent a lot of time and money and energy creating, and stuff our clients actually pay us for, and it's just our way of saying thanks for coming. And we want to equip you with a few tools to get you started. So stay tuned till the end for that. A little bit about me. I come from the painting world. I began with Breakthrough Academy 7 years ago. I am the head of content here, and I also host a podcast called Contractor Evolution. Any listeners in the crowd? Yes, 4. Amazing. We do have more than 4 listeners, but I'm glad you guys are here. That's on every platform every Wednesday. Go check it out. We love it. Matt's been on a couple times. So what we're on a mission to do here at Breakthrough Academy, and this is a really good setup for the phases, we're on a mission to transform honest, hardworking contractors into well-balanced leaders and thriving entrepreneurs. So as we've done this work and been able to coach and consult and advise so many businesses, a couple things have become really clear to us. One, there's a massive amount of opportunity and upside in construction, and what I would sort of more used to give you an umbrella term, more generally call like blue collar businesses. I truly believe there is massive businesses to be built. There's wealth to be created. There is roles to be hired. There's an incredible opportunity in this space. I really feel blessed and honored that we all get to be a part of it. The other thing that we see as well is these businesses, even good ones, are dramatically under-systemized. They've not been given the tools, they've not been given the owners, that is, the resources to create the business that they truly want. And that is sort of what we're on a mission to solve. So that's our mission statement, and everything that we do from a coaching and content and community standpoint is designed to fulfill that mission. So where we live is really between this these two stages that we just sort of call the grassroots level and the enterprise level. So you guys will remember the grassroots stage of your business. It's all hustle, it's quick results, you're solving problems on the fly. It's really fun, it's really exciting. It's also super stressful. If we're honest, we all kind of know this isn't, you don't want to stay there forever. It's a lot of work. And so a lot of us begin there, and we're trying to get to this enterprise level at the end where things are controlled, there's standard operating procedures in place, there are systems that govern the way in which things happen. We're building a bit of a leadership team. We've got visibility into our data. That's where we're trying to get, and we sort of live in the in-between. And so when we talk about the 4 phases that that we will today, that spectrum is really the way I want you to think of it. We're growing up as business owners, and we're growing up as businesses, because you can't outwork an unsystemized business. Now, the title of the session, we said the 6 core processes that every contractor needs. As we've sort of done this case study over the last 9 years, it's, in addition to the phases, it's become very clear to us that there is a framework to build the business that you want. And we call this the contractor growth method. So I'll talk about this more at the end, but our philosophy on this is to be a $10 million a year builder or bigger, to be profitable, to have the team that you want, to have the schedule that you want. Your business really needs 6 things. You need financial controls. You have to be able to see what's going on in your business. You need to have project by project profitability. You need to understand your cash flow cycles. You also need defined roles. People need to have a job description. They need deliverables. They need to be given marching orders and shown how to be successful, right? A foreman is different than an office manager, is different than your estimator, and these roles need to be defined well for people. We also need to install hiring systems so that you can have the people that you want. If you feel like you're kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel when it comes to staff, that's a solvable problem. There's a lot of work that we do on that. Oops. You need to develop training and onboarding systems so that we can skill up people as quickly as possible. We want to build out an optimized sales and marketing program so we can sell our service or product to the world. And we want goal setting and execution. So strategic planning, a 5-year plan, a BHAG, and then work that back to an annual plan and structured goals on a monthly basis. So this is sort of the antidote that gets you through the 4 phases a little faster. And I will circle back to that idea at the end. So here are the 4. We've got operator, manager, leader, and strategist. And we've sort of given some revenue ranges. I don't think that this is an exact science, by the way, so just think of these more as kind of like flexible buckets. But what they are they're sort of archetypal forms. Like, you will recognize the patterns and the symptoms of being in each of these phases. And where this conversation today becomes very practical is I want to share some insights that we've found. When people focus on X, Y, and Z, they're able to get unstuck out of the operator phase more quickly. When people focus on A, B, and C, they're able to move from leader to strategist. And so I hope along the way I'm able to share some of those insights with you. Let's begin with this operator character. Okay, so some of you, show of hands, how many of you guys like started your business from scratch? Like in other words, I didn't buy one, I didn't inherit one from my parent, I started from 0. Most of you. So you will remember the brain trauma, and I think that's the right word, the actual brain trauma of like years 1, year 2, year 3. You guys nodding? It's not the funnest, right? You are working through a literal swamp of stress and exhaustion. You're kind of driving around town with stuff flying out the back. You've got a few helpers, but to be honest, none of them are very good. You're doing a lot of cleanup for people. You probably have some equipment, but it's not that great. You've got a few processes, you have a few customers, but it's a very, very nascent business. Now, there are some pros of being in this stage, which I think are kind of interesting to talk about. While this is absolutely the most exhausting phase of a business's growth, there's a couple things you might like. It's very profitable. Like, you don't have a whole lot of overhead at this stage. If you guys have grown your business from here, you'll know now it's like, well, now I've got an office, I've got my insurance bill has ballooned. I've got all these non-revenue producing roles that are I need them, but they're expensive. You've got a serious overhead burden, and you really don't have that in this operator phase. As a result, it's also really nimble and easy to maneuver. Like, you can come up with stuff and implement stuff very, very quickly in the operator phase, and that's kind of nice. It's simple. There aren't that many moving parts. I mean, it might feel that way, but you'll know when you get to 5 million and look back at when you were doing 750,000, like, man, that was a simple little business. Now the cons, and there are many, is you don't really own a business at this stage, do you? You might have a name and you might have a website, but fundamentally you kind of own your own job, and it's a very hectic job at that. The small team and lack of systems means that you do basically everything yourself. So it's a very hands-on stage. And the workload is just not sustainable. So we all know when we're in the operator zone that sooner or later we would like to get out of this. Now, I want to talk a little bit about what we do and where the focus goes when we're coaching operators to get out of this stage. I had this really great guest on our podcast not long ago who is a private equity investor and had done, I think he'd done 67 successful exits. I mean, really, really understands scaling at a deep level. And he broke down the 0 to 1 million or 1.5 million stage very clearly for me and explained the sole focus. Yes, you have jobs to do. Yes, you have customers to keep happy. Yes, you have payroll to make. But outside of the operational facets of your business, the only thing that you should be laser focused on, he calls it unit economics. Another way to think about that would be like finding your profit centers. And so a lot of people get stuck in the operator zone because they don't do what we would call job costing or project by project profitability tracking. We call it something else, but it is the analysis of every single job that you do to line up what actually happened with the estimate that was provided, with your best guess as far as cost. And so the reason this is so important is without a reliable profit center, your business just can never get off the ground. You will always be doing the running around to collect checks. You will always feel like you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. And so the biggest growth barrier to this stage is understanding your profitability and finding out that money-making equation. Can we drive a 30% gross profit or a 35% gross profit on the projects that we do? We see this very, very clearly in the data that we track, that fewer than 20% of contractors out there are tracking expenses on an individual project basis. They get some reports out of QuickBooks, they have a bookkeeper, they have a little bit, but they're not really looking at their company through the right lens. And so that is literally the first thing that we fix, is we get really data oriented with project by project profitability to figure out, does this business have a profit center or not? And in many cases, they don't, or they have a blend of one. And so this is what I would talk about. When we get into the numbers with the businesses that we coach, almost always we will see some confusion. The owner thinks that they're making money here when in reality they're making money on a different kind of project. And has anyone actually gone through this exercise in their own business and found, like, okay, I've tracked some numbers and I was totally wrong about where we're making our money? Has anyone gone through that exercise? It's a very, very healthy one, and one I would advise you to do. So there's a really great tool, just called the job costing tool. It's a spreadsheet. This is a low tech, by the way, if you're using a great platform or a great software, they will have this baked in. But if you just want a very easy to use, approachable spreadsheet that allows you to look at your job costing, we have one in the download pack available for you. So with a focus on, let me go back a slide. With a focus on job costing and finding that profit center, we are generally able to move a business owner out of the operator phase and into the manager phase. And this is where things start to get kind of cool. You've dialed in your estimating. You figured out your production rates. You've uploaded them into an estimating tool, hopefully. You're doing monthly job costing. You have that profit center. you're sort of ready to move into this manager stage. So this manager zone is really between 1.5 million and $5 million a year in revenue. How many of you in your business right now are kind of in this manager stage right now? Show of hands. A few of you? Okay. So let me describe the manager stage to you a bit. You are at this point adding a team, right? You've added, let's say, an office manager who's taken a bunch of responsibilities off your plate, a foreman or a job site manager that's given you sort of a modicum of separation from the job site, although let's be honest, you're still involved quite a bit in this zone. But there's a trap that happens in this manager stage of growth. By adding some players and boosting your production capacity, you now have a machine that needs to be fed, like constantly. You always need to be adding logs to the fire. So at this stage, for a lot of you, really sales and marketing becomes your main hustle as you're trying to feed the beast, so to speak. You've made these hired, you've promised people work, now it's your job to do that. You cannot afford to not be selling all the time because of the team that you've built. So you've usually doubled or tripled your need when it comes to leads and sales. And furthermore, you have this team now that needs to be managed, right? You have players on the org chart that need accountability, that need coaching, that need leadership. Just flying around town all the time is not really going to work. You're not going to be able to deliver to that nucleus of a team that you've built what they need. So all of a sudden, right, there's HR needs, there's scheduling, there's training, there's onboarding, you have to run payroll all the time, the list goes on. So this stage is very, very fun on one hand because it's usually the first time where you're beginning to feel like you're building something. Like I've really got, this isn't just me and a business card and some tools and a truck. Like I'm creating something. I feel like an entrepreneur. There's this real rush, this real invigoration that a lot of our members feel when they're kind of in this zone about what they're truly building. But it simultaneously kind of sucks because there's way more work for you to do than there was at the operator phase. There's another comment I'm going to make about being a manager. This is usually where technology really starts to play a big role. You need to start adding a CRM. We're building out a tech stack, as they call it. And that is a whole bunch of work that needs to be done too. So how you evolve out of the manager phase, okay? There's a few things that we look at. It's really a lack of systems and infrastructure for the businesses between 1.5 and $5 million. That's really what we see them missing for the most part. And I say systems, you go, okay, well, what are we talking about specifically? So there's really 4 things that we put a ton of attention on for managers. It is a KPI dashboard, it's a reporting structure, it's role-specific agreements so that you can define roles for people, and it's standard operating procedures. How many of you are using how many of you are on QuickBooks? How many of you are on, do we have Buildertrend users? Do we have JobTread users? Okay, so everyone's got tools that they're using, which we are proponents of, huge fans of, not knocking them in any way. What I would make the case for is these tools are not the best at helping you set goals and actually understand where your company is going. They'll give you a great view on what's happened. They're not amazing at showing you what needs to happen next. And so one of the first things that we install, we call these, in BTA terminology, it's an MBP file or master business plan, but what it is fundamentally is it is a company dashboard that shows you all the KPIs that matter to a construction business. And this is something that we set up and kind of build in a semi-custom fashion for our users. But it's going to show you your sales, the goals that you had and what you've actually done, your production, your gross profit, your net profit. In fact, we can sort of tweak these to show you whatever we think you need to see depending on the goals of your business. But what we're trying to do is basically turn the lights on in a dark room for the business owners that we work with. And there are a lot of aha moments that our members experience when we do this. Oh my God, I can actually see now my closing ratio is way too low. We have a bit of a sales issue. This is something I'm gonna go implement systems on. Oh, I can see now my gross profit is way too low. We need to get that up. Let's work on pricing strategy. Let's work on our production process to be more efficient. Let's maybe negotiate with our subs and our vendors a little bit. there's just a much more data-driven approach to scaling a business when this happens. So we do have a little sample of this in the downloads, which I think there's one that's an example with numbers in it, and then there's one that's empty, and you can really do sort of a paint by numbers exploration of this tool on your own time when you get home. The second thing that I mentioned is building out like an organizational chart and structuring your company for the first time. How many of you in your business have an org chart or something that looks like this diagram here? Show of hands. No one. Okay. This will be a fun exercise. This is available in the downloads again. What we're trying to do, guys, is think through the goals of the business at a very high level and then slice up the pieces of the pie and hand them off to people effectively. Now, the mistake that we see made when it comes to this is a lot of people will just think in terms of tasks and sort of loose responsibilities. There's a vague idea of an office manager does X, Y, Z, a project manager does A, B, C, and maybe we get a template off of ChatGPT and we sort of add our logo, we make it work. But where this becomes really powerful is with this concept called deliverables. This is not new. We did not invent this. We just are big proponents of it and implement it into the businesses that we coach. So what we get really clear on are what are the specific measurable results that each individual role needs to deliver to us as a company in order for them to be essentially worth the investment in their salary. So we want to look at this through the lens of ROI. This is just an example up here, but if we have a project manager, we know we need them to produce $3 million in revenue. They need to keep the customers happy, and we'll measure that through a customer satisfaction score. And they need to hire and train our new staff. If it comes to, a salesperson would not be responsible for production, but they will be responsible for sales and maintaining a certain SR. So we get very, very clear on what matters in that role, and we build the role based on that. We have a really great, I'm going to skip this slide. We have a really great tool, an employment agreements tool in the downloads. So if you are maybe not happy with what you're getting from ChatGPT, or you want something that's a little bit more specific to trades and construction, we've built a number of employment agreement templates that are really designed with this deliverables and org chart philosophy baked into them. And we've highlighted in yellow all the stuff that you would need to update. So I'm very pro plagiarizing work. You can go ahead and steal our stuff and say that you made it. Just get these done fast. And there's actually a guide that comes with it that shows you exactly what you need to update. And I think if you sat down with some focus, you could get quite a bit of momentum. You could probably, using the template, get most of the roles structured in your business in a weekend. But this is available in the downloads, and I highly encourage you to play around with it. It's simple stuff. This is, again, low tech, but people ask us for it all the time. The other thing that we do a lot of is we build standard operating procedures. And an SOP, as we say for short, is a documented and understood and agreed upon way to do a given thing in your business. And that could be how the phone gets answered when a customer calls. It could be how the job site is set up on day one. It could be how we walk around and do update inspections with our customers. Anything in your business, you guys have heard this a million times, needs to be repeatable in order to scale, and SOPs help us do that much, much faster. Now, we've got a bunch of great content on Contractor Revolution on the podcast about this. We're also doing a full session, I think, tomorrow on how to build SOPs for your business. So I would encourage you to come to that. It's in one of the breakout rooms. So that kind of sums up a little bit what we're talking about in this manager phase. We get really focused on infrastructure and systems, right? We figured out the profit center in the operator mode. We're figuring out a bit of a systems approach in the manager stage, and then we're moving to the leader stage. This is where things get really, really interesting. We have, I'd say probably 30% of our members at Breakthrough Academy are in this leader zone. So we do have a really interesting vantage point on what this looks like. Now, this is where your business becomes really fun, and you're a lot less focused on the systems and you're more focused on the people. So I'm going to read a few things I wrote for this. Through the structure and systems you've implemented, the true shape of your organization is beginning to take form. There's actually 4 hallmark signs that you have arrived into the leader phase. You have detailed and accurate key performance indicator tracking across the organization on a weekly basis that allows you to make strategic and data-driven decisions, and you rely way less on your gut. So there's a lot of looking at reports on a weekly basis, from sales to production to HR to admin. You have 3 distinct departments that drive your business. There's a production department, an admin department, and a sales department, and you'd maybe include marketing into the sales, but there's sort of a front of house, a back of house, and then the people on site producing the stuff. You as an owner are driving revenue, gross profit, and net profit through those divisions that I described. In other words, you're not selling and producing every job yourself anymore, but you're leading the people that are. And you have SOPs built and implemented across all the core functions of your business. If your business is kind of sounds like what I just described, you are in the leader phase. That's a great place to be. Congrats. Here's what's really awesome about it. You have a regained sense of control. I'm not saying it's perfect, but you have a real sense of your stress levels are much lower. There's a confidence that things are tracking in the right direction. Because you can see data, you trust your decisions. It doesn't feel like you're flying around by the seat of your pants anymore. Your business is starting to make some serious dough for the first time. If you've done a good job of this, that's not a guarantee, but usually for the leaders, their businesses are starting to net 10%, 12%, 15%, 20%. They're making some really good money. They have retained earnings that they can do something with. They can begin to make serious reinvestments into their business. That's very cool. And then I think the other thing that's really neat about the leader phase, and people don't appreciate this enough, is it's really become a community driver for you. Because you have a brand and a name and customers everywhere, you're a person where you live. You have employees. You might be, you're not the mayor of the city, but you have a team. You maybe sponsor a soccer team. You have staff. You have customers. You have vendors. You have people you see around town. I think that's a really cool thing about being in small business for yourself, is it forces you to make friends where you live, because that's where you live and that's where your business operates. And that's a really nice piece too. So there's a lot to like, but there are a few drawbacks, right, of being in this leader stage. You're carrying pretty serious overhead, right? It's not uncommon to be doing $50,000, $100,000 more payroll runs every 2 weeks. You have to constantly battle what we call a bloated overhead, meaning you've got a whole bunch of non-revenue producing roles, right? When you are working with your crew on site, it's very easy to line out someone's work and measure whether someone was productive this week or not. You can see it with your eyes at the end of the week. When you're working with a marketing manager for the first time, or you're working with a production manager, these more abstract office roles, things can get very bloated very quickly, so you have to keep an eye on that. And it's, as the saying goes, heavy is the head that wears the crown. So there's a lot of pressure on you. You've got a machine that needs to be fed constantly. So a lot of challenges, but a lot to like. And like I said, 30% of our members are here. So where the focus goes at this stage is really, you become a talent magnet. Your job is to attract and build the leadership team that you need to run this. So you guys have heard this saying before. Your business will only grow to the limit of your leadership. It will also only grow to the limit of your leadership team. So what we're focused on is building out. I like this little graphic. It shows like you're leading through layers now. We are trying to court and attract and hire and onboard someone to fully delegate all of our administrative work to, in the form of like a senior office manager. You are looking for a production manager or a project manager. You might term it differently in your business, but someone to fully lead the production of the houses that you build or remodel or whatever it is that you do. You are looking for a sales leader to drive revenue, manage the lead flow, manage a sales team in some cases, and you're getting these really important components off your plate. And so this is a massive, massive amount of work to do this. we did a really fantastic episode with a guy named Dan Young. Now, he comes from the roofing industry, but I don't think that's going to matter. He's done he actually quite recently exited his business very successfully, I will add. He talks for about an hour and a half about how he built his leadership team. And the real key takeaway that I got from him is he's thinking about it so much earlier than he actually needs it. A lot of these roles, to have a sales leader, to have a production manager, this is someone that you're not just like posting an ad on Craigslist and then finding the person the next day. You are courting this person through your community. The other thing that we're starting to develop is an understanding of situational leadership. In other words, how your leadership style changes based on the context of your business. So there's this, maybe you guys have seen this diagram before, directing, coaching, supporting, delegating. What you'll notice with people on your team as they're at various levels of competence and seniority in their positions is when someone's new, they need a ton of direction. Just tell them what to do and where. When someone's getting a little better, they need coaching, they need feedback, they need skill development. When someone's actually quite good at their role, then they need supporting, and then eventually when someone is really, really competent, you're kind of in more of a delegation stage. You're not directing your sales leader what to do because they know what to do. They're well paid, they're a senior person. And so this is another thing that we invest in is really teaching our leaders to understand situational leadership on a deep level and apply it to their team in a way that works. So, let me back up. This leadership team, when built, is what frees you up to have the space and the bandwidth, in many cases for the first time, to enter into the strategist phase, as we call this. And by the way, like these are just names that we made up to kind of categorize these buckets. You could maybe call this the visionary stage or whatever. I think, I tell you who's a really great example of the strategist phase now is our friend Matt Reisinger himself. Like what he's done to build a team with Reisinger Build and then build a team with Build Show Productions has allowed him to truly be in his power zone as a visionary. And so this stage is that sort of final form entrepreneur. You are really spending a lot of time doing things that you love and are great at, and you are spending almost no time doing the sucky stuff. Your business is large, it's built out, there's people in every role, you have well-run departments, and you're really only involved with things at a strategic level. Your job is to create the vision for the business and support the people who help implement and execute it. That is where you live. And so really where your focus needs to go at this stage is on that vision piece. You're writing about the BHAG 5 years from now. You're describing your business in 3 years, what it needs to look like. You're spending a lot of time in this imaginary, very fun, very cool place as a business, and you're allowing the talent that you've acquired around you to help build it. And so there's a couple of really cool systems that I'm going to share with you. In the downloads, there's one that we made just quite recently called our painted picture tool. Has anyone read the book Vivid Vision? It's not crazy popular, maybe a few people have. It's by a guy named Cameron Herold, and this whole idea of a painted picture is something I've been doing in my life over the last year. I would really encourage you guys to invest in. It's the exercise of sitting down and writing in the first person and in the present tense exactly what you want your business to look like in 3 years. And he uses the number 3. He says 3 years is the right amount. 10 years is too long. Everything is changing too much. And 1 year is maybe not big enough. So we use a 3-year window. And we sit down and it's almost like we got in like a DeLorean time machine and we drove into the future and we got out and we walked around the building and we saw our people and we saw our customers and we just describe what we want to see. Now, there's a couple of things so I think it's very powerful for a few reasons. I think the written word forces you to fully form your thoughts and get clear on what you want and delete what you don't. I think giving yourself criteria to grade your success against year over year is really powerful, but most importantly, it's something your team can read and understand. And when you talk to great strategists, one thing that they are exceptional at is communicating where things are going with the team around them so they can get excited and they can understand how to contribute. So this painted picture tool is basically just a guide that helps you do this. We've got the steps, we've got a template, we've got some examples. I'd highly encourage you to check that out and maybe make one here between now and Christmas. This is a great time of year as we head into the new year to start doing some of this visioning, some of this strategy work. And so that would be a really great way to get started. Here's kind of an example of what it looks like. There's a how-to video, there's a bit of a guide, really, really cool tool I'd like to send you home with. So I'm just gonna recap here. Operator stage, what we're focused on is our job costing, our project by project profitability to figure out our profit centers and make sure that we have an actual viable business model here. When we get into the manager phase, we're defining roles, we're adding systems, we're adding infrastructure. As we move into the leader stage, our entire focus becomes building out that leadership team so that we don't need to do the work for them. And lastly, when we're in that strategist phase, we really are focused on strategy and vision at a high level. Now, this is a fun little diagram that we like to share and talk about at BTA called the transition curve, and it describes the entrepreneurial journey very well. This would be something that you right now, today, you will be at some point on this spectrum. Uninformed optimism is that very young, very naive sort of entrepreneurial mindset when you think, this is gonna be great, I'm gonna start a business, it's gonna be awesome, I'm gonna control my own schedule, my customers are gonna love me, and like, you know, a few weeks goes by, you're like, this actually is pretty hard. It turns out being a business owner is quite difficult. I feel like somebody tried to tell me that, I didn't listen. And you move into this stage we call informed pessimism, where you're kind of like, I don't know, this maybe wasn't the best idea. Generally from there, things get worse and we move into crisis of meaning. So this would be, I don't know, think of the last year, that worst day, that worst week that you had where 3 guys quit, a customer's pissed off, and you just got a call about, you know, a warranty that you're gonna go and have to deal with too. Awesome. Now, a lot of people bail out and go into what we call crash and burn here. But when the going gets tough, the tough get tougher. We usually solve problems, we dig deep, we find our way out, and we get into informed optimism again. And then the cycle repeats. We'll move on to another stage, we'll have new challenges, the whole thing begins again. And so we often share this slide in a lot of the talks that we give to provide some context and sort of help you understand how normal this is as a business owner. Like it's very normal to be in crisis of meaning. It's very normal to have uninformed optimism. And sometimes it's just healthy to understand where you sit on the spectrum and what you need to get out of it and know the cycle kind of comes to a conclusion, comes to an end at some point. So what do we do with all this? What's the point of this conversation? The point is to sort of give you a bit of a way to self-identify where you're at on this spectrum. Are you in one of these 4 phases? And what do you need to work on next? And so based on a bit of the story I've woven over the last few minutes, what I would ask you to do as you come out of this and you get the downloads, you kind of are thinking about what to work on in your business next, I'd really think in terms of these 6 systems of the contractor growth method. Do I need better financial controls? Do I need better visibility into my profitability? Do I need defined roles? Is everyone running around confused? People are blaming each other. People are tripping over each other. Do I need to define roles better? Do I need to install hiring systems? Because look, I'm gonna be honest, my team feels like a bunch of B players. Some of them are okay, but that's just not what I want. Do I need training and onboarding so that I can up-level people and develop them faster? Do I have a sales and marketing problem, or do I have a goal setting and execution problem, that visionary stuff we were talking about? So I'd ask you to just pick one. Business is a very, very multidisciplinary game. Think of your core issue, think of your one thing that you can work on now, and that will be where my focus goes between now and the new year. So I'm gonna bring this in for a landing here. We've got 5 minutes left. I said this at the beginning, we want to transform honest, hardworking contractors into well-balanced leaders and thriving entrepreneurs. That's what our whole program is about. We are super blessed to work with a large number of contractors all over North America. Those businesses on aggregate do about $2 billion a year in revenue. That's a big number. On average, what we see is a 25% increase in revenue and a 69% increase in net profit. So when we say we systemize businesses for growth, we're not just doing this to make PowerPoint slides about it. Like, we do this for the result that it delivers to the end user, to the member. And the way that we do that is through exceptional content that we've developed. So we have Spreadsheets and checklists and training manuals and SOPs, everything is built for you to a state of about 80% completion. You come in, you tweak the last little bit, and we're able to save time and really compress that implementation timeline down because you're working off of pre-built systems essentially. We have the best coaches in the industry. We work with some incredibly talented men and women who get to know your business. They build out the strategic plan. They meet with you every week to track results. They help you with the tricky parts of implementation. And then we've got an unbelievable community of 600 members who work together and collaborate, solve problems with each other. And so that's a little bit about Breakthrough Academy and what we do here. Like I said, we are on a mission to really change this industry. We think that there is massive potential for a smart, driven, systems-minded builder over the next 20 years. And for the person that wants to do this with help, with advisement, with a team of friends and colleagues around them, I think Breakthrough Academy there's no better place. So if you want to learn more about us, we will be at, tell me again, 60. Booth 1608, it's back there. We'd love to chat with you today, tomorrow, we're here all weekend. And for those of you who want to grab the downloads, there's a QR code here that you can just take your phone out and scan. It's going to take you to, oh yeah, I'll mention that too. QR code, you can download, you just fill out a very simple form, name, number, email, business name, whatever. You can grab this painted picture tool. There's that KPI dashboard. There's some employment agreement templates. There's a bunch of stuff. We'd love for you to take it and play around with it, put it to work for you and your business. And then the last thing is there are also some cards on the seats that you sat in. So if you grab that, you can contact us that way as well. Now, if you want to get the templates, you fill out the form, you say, send me the templates. If you'd like to connect with us outside of this meeting, you want to book a discovery call, you want to work with one of our assessment specialists, begin a conversation with Breakthrough Academy, find out more about what we do, see if this might be a fit, you are able on that form as well to select, I'd like to talk about how you can help my business, and you can actually just go in and book a call with us. If you can't find something in your schedule, just put your info in and we'll give you a shout next week when you're back from the show as well. So that's all the time I got. We're here at the end of 45 minutes. I want to say thank you very, very much for listening. I have another session on accountability and goal setting and review in 15 minutes in a room upstairs. And then we have 2 more talks tomorrow as well. But that's it for me. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.